This sword is from the English Civil War, so made around about 1640. It's a basket hilt sword because this looks like a basket. Got a trap there for the blade. If you get your enemy's blade trapped in there, you might be able to put it out of his hand. Thick and flat there, sharp then, sharp tip and sharp all the way down that side. So, you're charging on the back of a horse, charging someone down. It's very long, that's the advantage, but it's a disadvantage if you miss your target. You're moving on a fast horse, you haven't got room or time to withdraw it for a second go. So, you don't bother. You use this part. You punch him in the face as you go by with the basket hilt, choose another target, and leave him behind for the next cavalryman that comes along. This next one is a basket hilt claymore. So, very similar basket hilt. This is for use on foot. It's a very thick blade, so thick it's double fullered. That's these grooves here. Normally you'd only have one. The reason for the fuller is to take away some of the weight from the centre of the blade to make it a lighter blade. It also means if it goes in something soft and squidgy, shall we say, you don't get that suction and get it stuck in there. You don't want to be in the middle of a battle trying to put it out of someone. So it hits the fuller, blood comes out, air goes in, the seal's broken, wiggle around, put it out, and you can defend yourself again straight away. This is the sort of sword that the Highlanders would have used in the Highland charges in the 1700s during the Jacobite rebellions. So, traditionally, the Highlander would charge downhill with a shield about 3 times bigger than this one, knock his bayonet out of the way, and come down the back of the neck with the claymore, which worked very well until 1746 at the Battle of Culloden. Government troops changed tactics. The Highlanders charged down as normal. I raise my sword to hit, but the man I'm charging at has no interest in me. He's pointing his bayonet the other side. I get bayoneted in the side, it's an easy target here, by the man on this side. This is very effective and ends the usefulness of the Highland charge.
In 1722, the British Army is using this. This is the land pattern musket, famously known as the Brown Bess, and used at the Battle of Waterloo. It fires this, which is a solid lead ball, approximately 18mm. It would have come in a pre-packed case like this. To load this weapon, you simply lift up the frism, bite the tip of the cartridge and pour it onto the pan. Close the frism. This is a flint action, so the flint would sit here, gripped between 2 pieces of leather in the dog's head or cock's head. The rest of it would go down the barrel, like so. Using the ramrod, for the trigger. You also get this, a socket bayonet, which fits over the end of the barrel. The bayonet is triangular and tapered, so it's easy to punch through the French cuirass armour that the French cavalry were using at Waterloo.
Something a bit smaller now. This is from 1813 and belonged to the Governor of Malta. Now from 1660 onwards, gentlemen start wearing swords, not just the military. And this is for a few reasons. One is you wear this around town to show you're important. It's a sign of wealth and power. This is an expensive item. Also, to protect yourself. If you're going to the theatre in London, for example, take a shortcut down a dark alleyway on the way home, you're much less likely someone jump out with a knife and demand your money if you're wearing one of these. Another reason is for fighting duels. Now, fighting a duel is not illegal, but killing someone is, so you only want to fight to first blood. Therefore, not sharp at the sides here, no fuller for running through, just a very sharp tip. Because what you're going to do is aim at something like a shoulder, lunge, pierce the shoulder, blood comes out, and the fight's over. Now, if you're in the military, you have a very similar sword, if you're an officer, but it will be longer, it'll be sharper on the sides, as well as the tip, and larger protection. And you're going to use this for a few reasons, not just for fighting with. If you're at Waterloo, for example, black powder being used, lots of smoke, lots of noise, you can't see or hear very well. And if I say, march that way, or fire that way, at the back they have no idea what I'm talking about. So if I say, march that way, or fire that way, they see the blade move and at least know which direction I mean. Also, this period, you have the gentlemen's suits being made with buttons on one side and ladies' clothing had buttons on the other side. And we still do this today, and it's for a good reason in the time of swords. Men's buttons must be this side for a clean sweep to pull across the chest. You don't want the sword getting stuck with buttons going the wrong way. Ladies don't carry swords, so they have buttons on the other side. It also means that their buttons on the right side for their servants to do their clothes up for them. Next we have a cavalry sword. This one is from the 1880s, but we start using a curved edge sword like this during the Napoleonic Wars. Britain's fighting France and Egypt. Egypt's ruled by the Ottoman Turks. They have curved swords, and after the fighting, some British officers take these curved swords home as souvenirs. They wear them around town and they become fashionable. So, the Board of Ordnance decided to issue some of our cavalry, mainly light cavalry and dragoons, with curved edge blades like this. One of the advocates of this type of blade is Arthur Wellesley, who later becomes the Duke of Wellington. Now, at Waterloo, the British Army aren't wearing armour anymore, but the French cavalry are, breastplates and helmets. So, no point riding out maybe the chest, it'll be deflected away by the breastplate. No point coming down on the head, the helmet will guide it away onto the armoured shoulder. You might be able to get him under the armpit as he raises his arm to hit you, but it's not very likely because he's on a fast-moving horse and so are you. So, to use this curved slicing edge to the best advantage, you need to aim at something unarmoured, like the neck. As you ride along, you cut across either this way or this way. If you get the whole length of the blade along the neck, quite often the head will come off. So a very effective blade.
In 1853, the British Army is using this. This is the 1853 Enfield percussion rifled musket. It's still a musket. We're still loading it down the barrel, still using black powder, but instead of a flintlock system, it's now using a percussion cap system. This is also a rifled weapon. It's firing this mini ball 377. You also get a socket bayonet that's incorporated with this weapon and famously used in the Crimea. In 1871, the British Army is using this. This is the Martini Henry. It's a falling block system and it's a breech loader. It fires this, which is the Boxer Henry 4.5 caliber round. This weapon is famously used at the Battle of Islamwana and Rogue's Drift. In 1888, the British Army is using this. This is the Lee Metford, designed by James Parrish Lee. This is a bolt-action weapon and a repeating rifle. It fires this 303 black powder. It also incorporates a magazine, like so, and a clip of ammunition, like this. You would load the ammunition, like so. So the magazine, you don't change, it's there as a reservoir. You would still go to your pouch and take one single round out into the breech and fire it off. Until you need to use more application of fire, you simply open up the cartridge stop and the weapon becomes a repeating rifle. Famously used in the Boer War.
This next one is a heavy cavalry sword from the 1890s. It's a sharp edge along there as well as the tip, so you can slash, but really it's meant for riding along and piercing someone on the back of a horse. It's a straight handle that's rounded, extra bit there, supposed to give you stability and control. Doesn't really give you enough though. The problem with a straight handle is, if you do get it in someone, as you ride by, you've got to be able to get it out again straight away. If it gets left in there, you ride by, it twists the sword behind you, you've got a problem. You might end up breaking the wrist or having to let go of your sword, both of which are a bad thing to happen in the middle of battle. This is a sort of sword that Winston Churchill used at the Battle of Omdurman, 1898, when he was a junior officer there in the Sudan. And he wrote in his memoirs, he charged like this with everyone else, but as soon as he got near the enemy, he put the sword away, took out a Mauser automatic pistol, and used that instead, because he found the sword too hard to use. So in 1908, they have a rethink with the handle. This is the 1912 officer's version. And as you can see, it's shaped much more like a pistol grip, which just happens to suit the shape of the hand much better. Also, they've given you a space here for the thumb, so you have total control and manoeuvrability. Not really sharp here, just a very sharp tip, because it's designed to be like a giant needle. Once it's pierced, run all the way through and not stop until it hits here. Now, you've got enemy cavalry or infantry, or this side, cavalry or infantry. Let's say infantry this side, for example. You'd ride along, pierce. Once you've pierced, the horse does the rest of the work. Keeps moving forward, pushes it through them until it hits here. You turn them around as you ride by. As you go past, it slides out and you go on to your next target. Line after line of infantry you can take out with one of these, in theory. Hundreds of years of getting it right, they get this sword right just in time to face German machine guns in World War I. In 1914, Britain and France together have about 600 machine guns. The Germans have about 12,000. That's because German High Command want a modern army, British and French High Command want a traditional army. And they think that machine guns are a dirty way of fighting a war, whereas nice shiny things are an honourable way of fighting a war. But no matter how good the man with the sword the horse is, doing this against something that fires 500 to 600 rounds a minute, the machine gun seems to win. So, they take the swords and the horses away from the cavalry and they fight on foot in the trenches with everyone else until 1918. In 1918, when the Germans are retreating, British and French cavalry get the swords and horses back and they follow them. The idea being if the Germans turn around, a mobile force like cavalry can quickly block them. The last time, though, the British Army used swords like this and the full cavalry charge is 1919 in Afghanistan. After that, just ceremonial. So these last types are still in use, Buckingham Palace, Horse Guards Parade, that sort of thing, but they're all antiques.
In 1898, the British Army is using this. This is the famous Lee Enfield. It works in a similar system to the Lee Metford, which is a bolt, and also incorporates a magazine. It fires this, 303, but this is 303 cordite, a much more powerful propellant. Your ammunition would come in a clip, like so, which is a 5-round clip, and again would sit in the top of the magazine. When the British Army first used this in 1914, the German Army think that all British soldiers are using machine guns. That's the way this weapon was used. The British Army could do a thing called the Mad Minute, which we will now demonstrate for you. In 1914, most armies in the boat action would fire like this. But British soldiers could do the Mad Minute, which is like this. This weapon was used all the way through 1914 through to 1940, which is the Second World War. At Dunkirk, you lose a lot of these weapons, so they produced the Mark IV and the Mark V, which then go through the rest of the Second World War and into the Cold War up until 1956. In 1956, the British Army is using this. This is the SLR, self-loading rifle. Now this actually does use a 20-round box magazine that you will change. It's actually a Belgian design, produced in this country in the Royal Ordnance Factory. It fires this, which is a 7.62 round. Famously used in Malaya, Borneo, Aden, Northern Ireland and the Falklands War. In 1984, the British Army is issued with this weapon. This is the L85A1, also known as the SA-80. This is a smaller weapon which works on the bullpup system, meaning that the magazine fits behind the trigger. It fires this, which is a 5.56 caliber round. This weapon also has the capability of automatic fire. It's famously used from Northern Ireland, Bosnia, Kosovo, the First Gulf War, the Second Gulf War and Afghanistan.